They were closed and we are live. Woohoo! Beautiful people. I am so excited to have this wonderful, amazing talent here with me, Miss Iris Huey. Hey, Iris.
Hey.
It always takes a minute for me to get everyone signed on. So, and I just realized that I had been talking. I forgot to change my clearly. Uh-oh. There we go. Okay, I think I hear myself now. I have been so busy trying to get this collateral and everything done. And then we just ended our radio interview with Listen Up.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really excited about all of the love that we've gotten for the show. How has it been for you?
Girl, I've been in a cocoon. I'm in a cocoon. I haven't really been on Facebook. I'm not really on social media that much. So, so it's me and the cast. And so that's been all good.
Mm-hmm. It has been interesting for me to watch this whole process, to watch how it evolves, to watch how, like, there's just the synergy, to watch how we think that let me say this. The best way for us to connect is in person. So I definitely miss touching and just kind of being connected in that way. And I have figured out how to keep it moving.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Good. You certainly have, obviously.
I have been, and I got to tell you one other thing before we get started. I was very encouraged because you were the first person to read the script, the very first person that I wanted to. Yeah, you are. So I had been workshopping it for a bit, but when it was time for me to cast, I immediately thought of you and just your amazingly versatile talent. And I just thought, I want Iris. I want Iris. And so, but I, remember when I sent it to you and I was like, read it, let me know if you have the bandwidth, and then tell me which part you want to play.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. And you decided on Kathy.
Well, I mean, first of all, after the first few pages, I don't know if you know this, but I love comedy.
Okay.
I love comedy. And so she jumps off the page comedically in those first few pages. And so I was like, oh girl, yes. So I was like, okay, I'm in there. And so, of course her character kind of expands far beyond those pages.
Right.
But I still wanted to, number one is I enjoy working with you. I love your professionalism. I love your what you put out into the world,
Thank you.
And so I appreciate you. And so I wanted to be a part of it, really, namely because you were the creator. And so yeah. So I was ready to jump on board.
And I got to tell you that, like, from the very, I've been in awe of your talent, skills for years. I mean, I was first introduced to you as a filmmaker with your short film Scratches, which is still one of my absolute favorite back in the day. Yes. And so I've been a fan of your works. And so, like, you're this amazing creative gift as well. And I'm so glad that you are one of the gifts of the pandemic is that I got to cast you and you are not local.
Yes.
So, that was how has it been for you not being here in Raleigh, with the rest of the cast? Actually, no,
fine. Because of the platform, it has been fine. I haven't seen any problem with it. It's worked out fine for me. A lot of it is, studying your lines.
Yeah.
And I know how to do that on my own. So that's not an issue. So it's been good.
Now, one of the things that I was concerned about, not concerned, but I worried about the weight of this character and like if it can be, if someone could embody it with all of the comedic as well as some of the dramatic moments. And I think that you were, even at the table read, everyone at the end of the table read was like, oh my God, da-da-da. And Iris is Kathy. It was like everyone was just like so in awe of your, the way that you were handling this, this content. How did you get in? How did you start to prepare for this role?
Well, to be honest, I was like, how am I going to do this role? I didn't really know because here's the thing is that there are things that she deals with that I've never dealt with, that I don't have any experience with.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And not only that, there's also this huge comedy piece. And I wanted to make sure that I was careful and honest in my depiction of her.
Very important.
And
Mm-hmm.
so I was really, it was a challenge for me. And honestly, you know, I kind of just like threw myself into it. When the table read came, I was just like, well, here we go, you know, and so that's what came out. And so I was like, okay, I'm kind of feel like I'm feeling some pieces come together. So yeah, so that's what happened with that.
So here's what's interesting. You know, so the story, you know, for those who, you know, who are unaware, the story of Call and Response, it's based on, it's the story of a 49-year-old African-American woman who has heard a vision that by the end of the year, she's going to be married. The problem is that she has not dated anyone in 6 years, and she currently doesn't have a boyfriend. So she's going around recruiting like both bridesmaids and a groom. And so, but she's spending real money on this wedding because she full on expects that it's going to happen because she received a prophetic word. And so I have always been fascinated by the way people of faith will move in faith based on what they believe they have heard God say. But what happens if you are like, how do you discern between moving on what God says versus like moving on, like your ego is doing a magnificent impression of the voice of God? Like, how do you discern that? That was one of the things that I toyed with, you know, in writing this. But there was a question that you asked at the table read. Do you remember that question?
Yes, because this play also deals with mental health issues. I posed the question, well, how do you discern? Because okay, so I did some research. In doing research on this character, I did research on mental health conditions, schizophrenia being one of them. And when someone is dealing with schizophrenia, oftentimes they may hear voices, okay? Mm-hmm. And so I questioned, well, we have the spiritual world and then we have science. So if someone's hearing voices, how do you determine if it's from the spiritual realm or just a mental condition? Yeah. You know? Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's easy if it's a lovely voice and if it leads you in a direction that's good to be like, oh, those were angels, you know, that's for the spiritual realm. Mm-hmm. But then if it's negative, then they have mental health problems. You know, how do we...
Yep. How do we discern?
Or is it a demon then? You know, where do we draw the lines? What are the boundaries? And
I think that's such a rich question. That's such to trying to determine, is it God's voice? Is it demon voices? Is it your own like psychosis? Like what's going on there? I love that question. I love that. And when you said when you put because you distinguished between the two, like the fact that someone may hear the voice of angels and the fact that it might be something, it might be mental health, like something, totally different. But you make that distinction, and that was so powerful and profound for me. Yeah. Yeah. What is your experience? Like, how would you cast your lots?
Well, I would say, I believe in that there's more than just this physical realm. Okay. Yes. And I think most people do. So to me, I don't think that you could limit it to just this physical realm. So I would say that if you can hear voices, if there are ways that you can get information, and I believe that there are, there could be different types of spirits, some that are be more for your good and some more for your bad. And so I would think that it's more on a spiritual plane, and things that happen on this spiritual plane have physical manifestations. And
Facts.
so
That was beautiful because clearly, even though Kathy is operating off of a spiritual, she is operating in off of belief in a word that she has, that she believes is, was given in, in the spiritual realm, and that it will manifest, in the physical realm. What actually manifests in the physical realm is a ton of chaos, which is what we would expect for someone who has not dated in 6 years and is walking around here planning a wedding. Yeah.
And I see, I hesitate to go any further because I'm not sure how much to share yet about, I'm like, okay.
Well, then let me say this. Because I was trying to get a wedding planner on to talk about, like, is it predatory for, wedding coordinators to take money from people who are, planning a wedding, but they don't bring bridesmaids in or groom in or whatever. And so we're going to have this really rich, dialogue. What was it like? What were some of the parts where you're like, "Ooh, I have to tread carefully here"? Like, what were some of those parts?
Okay. Well, so the script is written. There's a lot of pieces in there where you can start to see some of Kathy's mental health conditions kind of coming forward. But then there's also like lines in there that could seem funny. They're just so absurd, and so I felt the need to tread carefully because I didn't want to play that comedically, even though it could come off as funny just because of the absurdity of the things that she's saying and doing. I wanted to just play it true and honest. So whether if somebody else finds it funny or just shocking, whatever, I just wanted to stay true. I do not try to play those funny. I just try to play those as a woman who is really really in the midst of believing what she's seeing in that moment. So
yeah, and you translate all of that very well. There was one part towards the one of the latter scenes where the way you deliver this particular line was not how I had envisioned it, but I thought, wait, she's doing it perfectly. Like, why didn't I capture this line perfectly? Why didn't I see it that way? So, like, just kudos to your amazing talent.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's like you understand the nuances of the characters. What has been some of your favorite parts of playing? And just FYI, one of the previewers who was watching it, she gave me 4 pages of like hilarious notes, and on one of those pages, it was her quoting you. And
really? Well, some of my favorite parts is in the beginning where she first meets Kathy. I mean, this is in one of the beginning lines where she's talking about, she's sharing, go ahead, represent for the kingdom. They basically have a moment of bonding because they're both Christian women. And that's when Pearl asks, they don't mind you keeping that Bible here? And I'm like, I wish the hell they would. Somebody would say something about that. I love that part. That was probably one of the first lines that really drew me in. I was like, I need to be able to say this line. I need to do this character just for this line right here. So I like the way she gets like outrageously bold in that moment.
Yes.
Yeah. I like that.
And that's a part of, I think, what happens when you are not tethered to conventions, whether it is because you are naturally bold or because you are not properly assessing boundaries and filters for whatever reason. But in any case, that boldness is a thing. It is a thing. So, and I've had 15,000 words and call and response. So I've had my say. Have your say. What's the final word on comedy, religion, and mental health?
Well, I would say that for anyone who is creating productions or entertainment, dealing with these things, I think that it's important to take great care of the characters and present them with truth, with respect, so that we can understand them and not use them as tools to entertain us, but to let us have an experience of learning as well.
Yes, that's beautiful. Beautiful last words. Iris Huey is the lead character. She plays Kathy in Call and Response. It opens part of the Women's Theater Virtual Festival this Saturday, July 18, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you go to the Women's Theater Festival site, you'll be able to click the link and log on. Oh, I think that we have also the ticket links in Facebook event pages, and I think also on the YouTube page, you will be able to click the link there. Iris, you are amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, and so are you, my dear.
Thank you, beloved.
All righty.